which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the public meeting tonight is to discuss the potential for the food service management RFP. I know Chuck has some work behind the scenes to let us know where we are. And this is just an exploration. This isn't a vote that we're accepting a contract. This is just seeing what's out there.
Thank you. So we're very, very early in this process. We just met with the state a week or two ago and had a great conversation about what we're responsible for and what we have to do regarding if we put out an RFP. So we have been starting to gather information, district information and state information that's going to be required. The earliest we can put an RFP in is November 15th. If we're directed to do so, we will be ready to submit at that point. This all started purely because since 15-16 school years, we've been operating in a deficit. We've had 2 years that were an anomaly. That was 17-18 in consolidation where we were in the green, and this past 21-22 where we got some sort of money tied to COVID. Besides for that, we're always operating in the red, anywhere from 46,000 the low to 254,000 in the red yearly. So again, we're very early. All I've done up to this point is meet with the state and then create 21-day menus based off of August and September. That's part of the requirement to submit for RFP, and that's pretty much where we're at. Just being completely open and transparent with it.
Yeah, absolutely ask questions.
So Chuck, do you know, from looking at our other school districts in the area, have they figured out a way to get not in the red in the cafeterias, arena?
So school districts I've talked to, like Trail and Elk Lake, places like that, they do contract out. They have gone to RFP. They have different companies each district. But there's clauses within those RFP contracts where they don't go into the red. That's guaranteed.
Where they don't what?
They don't go into the red. It's guaranteed where it's at least break even, right? Okay. So, and then some of them are generating revenue. So it just depends. And every district's different depending on the amount of kids and the data that goes into those formulas.
Yeah, so do we have other districts around here that are using contracted services?
We're surrounded so far, everybody I talked to, by districts contracting services. We're the anomaly where we're in-house.
And if we were to do something contracted out, would we retain some ability to set what is sold in the school or what they provide or meal-wise or?
I do believe most of the companies that have reached out have a variety of different menus. They have different options. So that's something that, after this goes out, that we would explore with any company who's interested.
Okay.
In every district I talk to, it's a team approach, right? They work with the schools, those stakeholders that are in the building, and we work together to kind of make sure everything's adequate for the children and up to par and what we want as a district. And I think it's important to note again, even if we submit the RFP on November 15th, it doesn't mean we have to accept the proposal. It's just seeing what's out there.
I think that this is just another way. I task my team, just like you task me, to find ways to save money where it's really not making an impact on students. So if we could potentially save by getting a contract for our cafeteria services, that's something we have to look at and explore and see if that would benefit Tunkhannock area students and taxpayers. So this is just, I think, a good step in deciding, hey, let's put it out on the street and see what happens. Part of the process, we get to work with them on food selection. I think that Dr. Suppan and our cafeteria director, Jackie Shaver, I think they put together a menu that was sent out as part of the RFP, or will be included as part of the RFP process, like an example. But it'll be interesting to see, because we would want guarantees that we're not going to be in the red. Ultimately, that's the goal, right? We can't, I don't need to have us make money necessarily at the cafeteria. If we do, great, but I need us not to lose money and just be able to, I guess, budget more strategically
Yeah.
than trying to figure out how much we're going to be in the hole every year when we budget.
I also think in exploring and talking with some of the other schools, that this seems to be a trend. Like I said, we're surrounded by schools moving to this, and I think it's the way our economy is changing too. Like, regular standalone people don't have the buying power. Even when you get in buying groups, you just don't have the same resources that you do when you're part of a larger company.
Yep, absolutely.
I was just say, yeah, one of the big perks is their bulk purchasing power, and how it reduces prices, yeah.
Any other questions?
So the
Discussion.
RFP, if it
Yes.
would be in November, we would get the data back in January, or how long would that?
Oh, it's a long
It-
timeline.
It is usually January, February-ish. There is available on the, I believe that you can get this through the state site, is a scheduled timeline of how it usually works.
Oh, so if I just read this paper in front of me?
Yeah,
The paper in front of you.
I was gonna say, this is the timeline right here that's from the state. I put copies up there. It's a lengthy process. I didn't even think we were gonna be able to submit if we decide to on that early, but talking to the state, they feel this is gonna be a big year, just because of how many contracts are up of people going back out to RFP. So they said if we decide to go that route, being a new school submitting RFP, they advise us heavily to get it in early, which I said I will get it in as soon as it's open, if it's the 15th.
And then would have to is it every 3 years you rebid it, or every year, or?
Five.
Every five.
Oh, okay.
And there's a requirement that you have to send out the advertisement to at least 5 providers. I mean, we would spread it out to as many providers as we possibly can. I mean, obviously, we want the, what's going to be best for our district. But having the cafeteria services subcontracted is the norm. It's not like the exception. Doing it ourselves, like we're still doing, is now a rarity.
And then the other question do we know for the other districts around us that use this, are the contracts written such that like the service is provided and there's never a but the school has to fund them up to a certain amount or anything like that? Like, that's not how they're written, or do you know?
I don't want to tell you something I don't. I'd have to look into their contracts more deeply. This is like my knowledge. No.
Attorney Audi just.
I've never seen it.
Okay, so like if the contract is X amount of money, that's what we pay, and whether they made money or lost money, that's what we pay.
Generally, when you get your bid back, it'll have a guaranteed savings and a guaranteed expenditure. So you'll know what they're charging you, and you'll know the guaranteed amount that you're going to save.
Oh, good, so make it a lot easier for Paul to budget, right?
It does.
That's awesome.
It streamlines the budgeting process,
Yeah.
no doubt.
If only the electric companies would do that, right?
We're working on it.
Any other comment or discussion? Any?
I think we should just, one of the important things is, I know, Director Cole, you want to just be in front of this and be completely transparent with our taxpayers, and that's why we wanted to bring this out now before we're even soliciting bids, because, we want people to be aware of what we're doing. I know this board has a goal of always being transparent with business, and this is something that, potentially is pretty large and could benefit our taxpayers. So, we want them to know that we're actively working to try to meet, their needs and their expectations.
Yes, and to, I know you said after that this will be made, public, the meeting will be public, so if there's any feedback, they can always
Absolutely.
reach out to us through the website and whatnot with any concerns or questions.
Yeah, the process is this school year through the RFP process, but it would be for next school year that we contract services.
And if we do grant a contract, it'll be a 5-year contract.
Anything else? Any other questions or comments? Okay, I believe that was the only item on the agenda. I'm just going to double check. So I'm not close to the gavel, but I'll say the meeting is adjourned.